Good morning. Good morning to you all. You know, I really appreciate all these questions, and I really appreciate all your loving comments. It's been a long 40 years in on this planet, and the hardness of man's consciousness to break open this intellectual grip that's holding man back from his spirituality and his ability to bring health to his body. It's just the mind has prevailed here without thought of keeping and retaining consciousness. That's understandable. I mean, this is an area where we come and experience, and the world of karma. Someone asked me about karma here. And really, if you're a Christian, you shouldn't freak out with the word, because Jesus simply said, you reap what you sow. In physics, we call it, for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. And so it just simply means that what you put out there, you're creating, and you have to experience that. And so people that harm others and hurt others, like this Casey Anthony case, you know, a lot of people up in arms about that. And I suppose that's important that that happens so awareness of things can come out. But the karma of the soul can't be stopped or eliminated. You have to work through it. Some of these spiritual beings claim they can help you, they can take your karma on for you, and those kind of things you have to watch out for. And I'll do another, I'm going to do that series of spiritual videos, at just having time to do it, guys. I want to get to your questions here, but that's my favorite, is the spiritual side, you know. But karma is bad or good. It just is. I mean, there's no labels to it. On one side of it, and you got to get to that side where there's no labels on anything. It's kind of like this whole process you guys are doing, and some of you guys are doing so well, and I appreciate you using the herbs and seeing the power herbs have. That's why I call these herbs God's herbs. And I have put my name on them now simply because a lot of health food stores and a lot of people freaked out using God's herbs, and it was like, well, you know, I'm paying a tribute to who created them. You know, I mean, we need to look at, one, the Supreme Being, and two, the beauty of the botanicals this planet offers us for our well-being. I think, as I said before, pharmaceutical companies need to rethink them. All these hundreds and hundreds and thousands of lawsuits they go through for the money, where is that consciousness anyway? Medical doctors, please come home, become homeopaths. You know, all medical doctors should stop and learn and start practicing homeopathy. Not only will the deaths stop, but the symptoms will go away, and you'll start learning the connection to naturopathy, which is the curative side of all the health modalities, the only curative true modality out there, true naturopathy. Naturopathic medicine is disgusting to me. It's an oxymoron. And you got Bastyr and Southwest teaching this medical consciousness, so where they took the medical and cloned it into naturopathy. And Dr. Jensen always hated that. I always was getting calls to see if from these top guys, if I could get Dr. Jensen to get on their board and all this, and it's like, he didn't want it and I didn't want it. And the reason was they're teaching the wrong things. And so I get a lot of students from some of these naturopathic schools sitting here learning and trying to get some clinicals, and they don't know squat after 5 years. If I can't teach you after 5 days how to cure anything, I feel I failed in my mission. So I do appreciate you helping with my mission here. I'm sent here to teach this and to help elevate the consciousness here, and I really appreciate all your help doing that. So we've got a lot of questions to go through here, so this might be a lengthy question and answer period, so forgive me for the length of these things. But there's so many important questions, and what this does is help you to see all different sides, and how I'm going to keep tying it back to the core problem. And so hang in there, even though some of this might not be relative to you. Hopefully I can build this whole thinking here for you, and everything is good. So let's take off here a little bit here. Oh, this was talking about Dan McDonald. Dan, I would be pumping that God's blend. I put it together a superfood blend. I left out the palm scum, the blue-green algae, digestive enzymes, of course. Dan, don't get trapped in that one. I've seen people take them for years and then stop taking them, and their pancreas just quits digesting completely. It's an endocrine gland. You can't take what your glands need to make. And I'm going to tie that into your question, my friend, about DHEA. This is the problem in taking even some of what they call precursors. You'll end up not being able to, your adrenals not being able to produce your steroids, and that's what's happening with you. That's why when you stop it, you go into anxieties and you have all these problems. This would, you would be better off now to switch to a glandular, an adrenal gland desiccate, where it'll help now support the whole adrenal gland. It'll give magnetics and energetics to the adrenal glands, and therefore you can get off of the DHEA. And now you're working on building the adrenal glands, realizing that the adrenal glands is just a bunch of cells and two fluids, and that those cells are fed by and cleaned by these two fluids. Always remember that, even if it's liver problems or gallbladder problems. We're going to touch about the skin here. All these tissues are nothing but cells serviced by two major fluids. And when you understand there's a kitchen and a bathroom in the body, and you start looking at all the organs and glands, and which are you? Are you part of the kitchen or are you part of the bathroom? You know, you got most of the body there. You got an electrical department, of course, but that's even controlled by the glands. I think learning the glands are important. There's not that many of them. They're the bosses or the government of the body. This government, though, loves its people, realizes it's made from the same, cells that everybody else is. So important there. And I'm going to tie this into this bodybuilder here that's pumping protein powders. Appreciate that question. In all seriousness here, protein powders will damage the kidneys big time. I have a lot of young guys between 25 and 35, some of them already on dialysis, and a lot of them heading toward kidney failure, creatinine in the blood going way up from the damage protein has on these tissues. Remember, protein is more phosphorus, nitrogen, acidic. And of course the body needs to be more base or alkaline chemistry, and putting these kind of chemistry in the blood continues to leach calcium out of the tissues, and then of course long-term effect on the kidneys is not real pleasant. And so you'll notice that in bodybuilders, they'll get a rheumatoid arthritis is the most popular, but all the arthritis is osteo and stuff. They lose their bones, they lose their joints, they lose their hips. And this is all from the high proteins. And of course, bye-bye kidneys. Well, bye-bye kidneys, bye-bye adrenals, bye-bye nervous system. It just has a residual kick all through the human body. If you want to pump up on anything, pump up on green juices. You know, I'm an old farm boy kind of guy. We raised horses. Me and my sister always raced horses and stuff, and we pumped them up with alfalfa. I'm an alfalfa fan in that respect. So lots of alfalfa. You can really pump alfalfa, pump kelp to keep the calcium up, the thyroid pumped up, pump up your adrenals. Also at the same time, remember that you might not have the bulk. It is better to have a little less bulk and more power and more flexibility. Because the more bulky muscles, you're going to lose them anyway when you detox, guaranteed. Inferior cells leave, so you're going to lose them anyway, and you're going to get stiff and tight, and you're not going to have the flexibility, say, a martial artist would have. And so if you keep that in an alkaline building, you'd be better off. And pump the greens. Just pump the greens. I don't care, spinach, dandelion greens. Pump the greens that not only have nutrition, but that also get into tissue and build them up, like the adrenals. Dandelion green, high in nutrition, pumps up your adrenals and the kidneys. So by pumping up these greens, look at my God's blend, or find any superfood blend. I don't care, but so by pumping up these greens, look at my God's blend, or find any superfood blend. I don't care, but get it without the digestive enzymes, the probiotics, and all the other crap that they add into these things. I mean, you just want a superfood blend. And man, you know, I got royal jelly in mine, but it doesn't matter. Just all the good greens and keeping that way pump you up, you know, and really build some strong muscles. At the same time, remember, when you're working out, you got lactic acid, your lymph system must be moving effective too. Because in building up, if your kidneys are not filtering that and getting rid of those acids, you're in turn going to have a breakdown. You're just not going to really get what you want to get and be healthy and happy doing it. See, that's the other side of that. You want to be healthy and happy and have strong muscles. And endurance, here's another thing. People laugh about the fruits, and yes, a lot of people disagree about vegetables. But if you take and look at a herbivore, that's an animal that eats vegetables, they do not in any way look like Homo sapiens, humans. Their GI tract is 30 times the length of their spine. They have 4 stomachs or more. Their teeth are set to grind. And look at the cellulose. We have juice extractors now because of the high cellulose. And as you get older, if you lose your teeth, you can chew fruit, but you can't chew vegetables. And so vegetable matter has never, ever, except for Hippocrates and cousins and some of these people that to me is misguided, do you ever see vegetable fasting? And if you work in clinicals with people, all you have to do is do the difference. Show what you can do with fruit fasting versus vegetable fasting. And you will be amazed at the level of detoxification, amazed how quick people can get rid of their cancers, amazed at the level of endurance and clarity you can get on fruit. And you try this, live on fruits for a couple of weeks, and then just go out and try to live on some salads. And see the difference in how you feel. I guarantee, especially you spiritual guys that are real sensitive to frequencies and energy. Matter of fact, after this tape, we're going to do a muscle testing tape for you and try to show you how to do that. Someone asked me about tetanus and Hep C boosters and stuff like that. You know, I hate all vaccinations. I think that the real key here is how toxic is your lymph system, or how backed up is it. That's the culturing medium that we deal with here. You have to understand culturing mediums when you're dealing in bacterium, because bacterium are just there to deal with waste. Virals, they deal with weaknesses of cells. So health has always been clean the waste and acids out of your body and strengthen the cells. There where you don't, if you have viral loads, they're not going to bother you, and you can detoxify them out of the body. A lot of people have the herpes virus now. I think one medical doctor said it came out of the the smallpox back, mutated and became herpes. So. This all is causing man to clean up his lymph system. It's just what's going on here. All these viral loads, HIV, all these viral loads can be cleaned out of the human body. But you must detoxify to do that. And this is all proportionate and relative to, one, kidneys and adrenal function. So you younger people have much more of a difficult time doing this, to be honest with you, because of no one was paying any attention when we were having our children about strengthening the genetic weaknesses that's coming down our family line. We just figured, let's have kids. And that has really created serious problems in kidney and adrenals in the younger folk. So you guys have a little more work in that way, probably tied to one's spirituality and growth and things like this, but there's no more eating the way we have. It's like in the government, there's no more spending what we don't have, but you know what, they got lunatics up there. I don't know what's going to happen here. Here's a 7-year-old with slow growing hair. Again, you want to check that lymph system and check that pituitary. Is her size a little shorter, or is she smaller than the average person? This would be pituitary. At the same time, at 7 years old, I guarantee you she has kidney and adrenal problems, meaning that her lymph system, and what did you raise her on? Milks, formulas, and this, of course, are lymph cloggers. So a little detoxification, a lot of fruit and things, especially 7-year-olds. Fruits mature the brain and nervous system of man. Highest magnetically alive foods on the planet. You need those berries, you need those fruits to get those little brains way out there. Vegetable matter is more muscular or skeletal. Fruits much more brain and nerve, no question about that. So important to think more about that sort of thing. check her, just check her. Get our questionnaire from the office here and go down that list and look at the fingernails. Observe these different symptoms that we put under the different headings of the tissues. That way you get used to this symptom is linked to the thyroid, or this symptom is linked to the parathyroid or the adrenals. And once you get that down, you guys are going to be incredible healers. It's forcing us all to become healers, but this world needs a lot of healers. I can tell you that, especially at this level of thinking. It sounds simplistic, but it is an art to develop the ability to help someone from the lower depths of hell and health up to the highest peaks of vitality. It can be a heck of a rocky road, as some of you probably are going to experience. Don't get frustrated. Get that knowledge in there. Know what you're doing, because there's nothing else out there. You can study books till heck freezes over, to tell you the truth. It's other people's consciousness. Step back and develop that sense of the now, where you're getting away from the mind. Like we did the video yesterday on intellectualism and biochemistry. These are no-brainers. There's just too much disagreement in that field. It doesn't answer anything, and you can't play that game and get your patients to the top of the mountain. It's simpler than that, because there's no way any one person can play with chemistry that the Supreme Being has put together. And remember, we don't isolate chemistry. You do not play that game. Not worth the side effects. Okay, stretch marks. That was another question. I have seen them disappear. Again, a lot of women use coconut oils and things like this, and vitamin E creams, of course, but I really believe the real issue is the health of the tissue and the skin and the underlying subcutaneous tissues, cleaning these acids out of these tissues and working that body into a state of health. Yes, I've seen scar tissue eat itself back up, as well as adhesions. Kind of like bone. If you fracture a bone, your body builds a lot of cells around that fracture, so it looks like your bone actually built a lot more bone around that. In time, when the body sees everything's good, that bone will disappear and it'll look normal again. Same thing really with adhesions and scar tissue. The adhesions and scar tissue is the body's effort to support an area of weakness. And you'll see this. The healthier you are, you'll cut yourself. There won't be a scar. It'll heal in overnight. You won't have any pain. Read Arnold Ehret's books. The Mucilus Diet Healing System. Read him. You'll love him. Arnold Ehret. When I was a strict fruitarian, I could cut myself, no bleeding, wouldn't feel it, and the next day it would be literally almost gone. I have some deep scars because I used to live on oranges, and I just peeled them with a knife. I didn't juice them, I just peeled them and ate them. And I sliced myself all the time. Never felt it, never bled. And you can step down on vegetable matter. This is another good one. Step down on vegetable matter and you will feel it. If you step off of raw, you start feeling it a lot more. And if you eat meat, you're going to get pussy, it's going to hurt, and it's going to be there for a while. Shows you how toxic meat eating is. And while I'm on that subject, I remember a question from a meat eater here. I'm not opposed to eating some meat once in a while. I'm really not, for those that do. I'm not that... I used to be pretty strict. Very strict. So strict, like I said, that you have to be careful, because when you have strong discipline, which it takes that sometimes when you're coming from an omnivorous program and you know intellectually this is the right way, but the emotions and everything is tied into your eating. Sometimes it's just just a little bit, and so what? Nobody's judging you. Someone sits there judging you because you eat something cooked or you eat a piece of dead animal. Well, they have a spiritual lesson to learn. Don't let anybody judge you that way. That's unimportant. We're all just here trying to be well, enjoy life, be here now, and so what if we have a little this, a little of that? Yes, I don't like to see animals killed. Someone sits there judging you because you eat something cooked or you eat a piece of dead animal. Well, they have a spiritual lesson to learn. Don't let anybody judge you that way. That's unimportant. We're all just here trying to be well, enjoy life, be here now, and so what if we have a little this, a little of that? Yes, I don't like to see animals killed. But nothing really dies, do they? If you get to the higher level of thinking, you can't kill anything. You can't kill soul. That just moves around from one area to another, and everything else is just atoms. And we just play rearrangement of atoms all the time. So things appear sometimes what they're not. It's just that's how God loses itself in creation. You got to have some fun if you're the only thing that exists. Don't you start playing when you're the only thing that exists? And so that's kind of what you see here. But duality must exist in the playground, positive and negative, something separate than yourself. And I'll touch that in our spiritual things and so forth. Zinc oxide. Someone asked me about sunscreen. The Amish have some great creams we have here, all made food-based, even sunscreen. We have some botanical sunscreen. Highly recommend that over zinc oxide. Again, isolating chemistry is dangerous here, real dangerous, because everything was already built here, was magnetically bonded. And so when we went and we started making zinc oxides, and we started making chemistry out of what exists, what we did is we broke the magnetic bonds that existed. We broke the ratios of chemistry that existed with those magnetic bonds. And now what we have is chemistry out of balance, and now we have chemistry rebonded, creating free radicals. And so this has created antagonistic chemistry, which we don't know. I mean, we know some of it, like vitamin C is antagonistic to calcium. We start seeing the antagonistic effects, like high phosphorus, so we know already is antagonistic to calcium. But it goes on and on and on. I did a lot of hair analysis for years, and it was just impossible to go, we don't know what the uranium is antagonistic to, we just, and it just got that way. And that's okay, because what it did for me was go trash that intellectual crap and get myself where I'm always in the now, where I not let the mind take my spirituality away from me, where I can enjoy the bliss and ecstasy and say, look, this is simple. Understand the core issue of detoxification, what we're after. Remember, the body's nothing but a bunch of cells and two fluids, and there's only two sides to chemistry. And keep that simplicity going. And when you do, my God, yeah, you can pick up this, what does this hormone do, what does this steroid do, and yes, if your body doesn't produce it, you could have this symptom. Now, that's kind of cool, but if you take it too far into biochemistry, frustration will always be yours, and you'll think you know when you don't, and that's not worth it. I love your comments. Thank you so much for these comments. This is an important one where this individual, whenever she, I think, would have raw foods, she would get constriction in the chest. I don't like how that sounds. I can tell you that, are you washing the pesticides or herbicides off? Because if you're not, that's the effect of neurotoxins on you. You might already be loaded with neurotoxins, and when you start getting raw foods, they start moving these neurotoxins around. Also, the stomach area. The stomach solar plexus area is the autonomic nerve ganglia. So when the stomach is not right, the nerve ganglia isn't right, then that's going to impress on breathing or anxieties or heart, things like this. I'm going to say to you, if the raw foods are doing it, then I would try to find some balance. I would try to get off of all meats, get off of all dairies, get off of all that, steam your vegetables, try to find one fruit. I would say maybe apples and grapes. Find something in there that doesn't cause that. Maybe eat small amounts more often. I would also slowly break into the herbs. I would definitely want to get my adrenal glands up. Question here is, you have low blood pressure. If you do, how low is it? Because that's an indication of the adrenal weakness, which is the neurotransmitters to the autonomic nervous system. But if you're eating raw and you get a spasm of the chest, that I don't like how that sounds. So we have an antispasmodic, and I made that for people that are inhalers and crap like that causes cancer. We don't want to suppress your body's ability to expectorate. We want to relax that autonomic nervous system while we build it up. At the same time, we want to clean out the congestion in the interstitial areas of the lungs. That only makes sense. If we suppress your ability to expectorate, then that leads to the accumulation of excessive mucus and acids. Then that's what breaks down lung tissue and gives you tumors, blah, 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 masses, and all the other stuff. So there's an antispasmodic that you can use for anything. If you have convulsions or tremors or you get tight, use this antispasmodic. It'll relax you while you're eating, because if you push through this, we get you through this door, you're in. And then when you're in, you can keep detoxifying and repair that body of yours and fix it up, honey. But always, always wash your fruits and vegetables, even if they say they're organic. Always get a veggie wash at least, or use hydrogen peroxide, lemon juice, and what I do is take a little food-grade hydrogen peroxide, or you could use any, I guess, but just a little bit of hydrogen peroxide. Take a lemon, cut it in half, squeeze it in there, maybe throw some salt in there, and clean your veggies. Don't use soaps, don't use bleaches, and don't use just water, because you will not be getting them off. And if you're that sensitive to neurotoxins, you really need to build up your adrenal glands and to get your lymph system cleaned out, and you'll be good, honey. This is a lovely lady here, Crystalline Ascension. I love that. But anyway, you've asked me about different Heliobacter and stuff like this, bacterium in the gut. She also asked me about leaky gut syndrome, stuff like this. True leaky gut syndrome, guys, would be where you perforated the bowel, in my opinion, and now you're leaking into the abdominal cavity. That would be a serious, serious problem. I think the real issue here is where we get this lymphatic stagnation interstitially or in the wall of the gut, and it actually burning you from the inside out. Then we develop malabsorption from that. We develop acid reflux from, a different type of acid reflux from that. We start ulcerating the tissues. We start having the IBSs. We start having the Crohn's. We start having these type of problems, even growing polyps and stuff like that. The same thing, remember, bacterium or any type of microbe like that has a job to do in nature. And so the question would be the condition and tissues of your stomach. So stomach tissue is easy to cure. We've had a lot of stomach cancer, probably the easiest cancer on the planet to cure. That and say kidney and prostate and things like this. Closer to the kidneys, the easier, obviously, these type of cancers are. But I would really work on detoxifying my stomach, get our stomach and bowel formulas that will help to clean and get the inflammation out of those tissues. I'd stay probably away from acid fruits and stuff like that a little while. Go to the subacid. Subacids are your grapes. Someone asked me whether I liked green grapes or red grapes. Of course, I like them all, but I eat the darker ones. If you take a pH strip and you check your pH after you eat each one of them, the darker ones give you the highest pH there. So it's like blueberries and blackberries. The darker, the more power, the more flavonoids. It's just a strong, powerful food. Nutritionally, I don't know where people didn't realize fruits and berries are not one of the most nutritious foods on the planet, especially picked ripe, grown properly. That's always a given, we know. So, honey, just tetanus shots, that's all about lymphatic systems. Clean it out. It's like being spider bit or snake bit. You head for lymphatic herbs. If you're snake bit or spider bit, some girl told me yesterday from Indiana she was bit by a black spider with a white top. Wasn't a black widow with a red top, and then she went into asthma. Well, it was their neurotoxins. These venoms are neurotoxins. The same thing, remember, bacterium or any type of microbe like that has a job to do in nature. And so the question would be the condition and tissues of your stomach. So stomach tissue is easy to cure. We've had a lot of stomach cancer, probably the easiest cancer on the planet to cure. That and say kidney and prostate and things like this. Closer to the kidneys, the easier, obviously, these type of cancers are. But I would really work on detoxifying my stomach. Get our stomach and bowel formulas that will help to clean and get the inflammation out of those tissues. I'd stay probably away from acid fruits and stuff like that a little while. Go to the subacid. Subacids are your grapes. Someone asked me whether I like green grapes or red grapes. Of course, I like them all, but I eat the darker ones. If you take a pH strip and you check your pH after you eat each one of them, the darker ones give you the highest pH there. So it's like blueberries and blackberries. The darker, the more power, you know, the more flavonoids. It's just a strong, powerful food. Nutritionally, I don't know where people didn't realize fruits and berries are not one of the most nutritious foods on the planet, especially picked ripe, you know, grown it properly. That's always a given, we know. So, honey, just tetanus shots, you know, that, again, that's all about lymphatic systems. Clean it out. It's like being spider bit or snake bit. You head for lymphatic herbs. If you're snake bit or spider bit, some girl told me yesterday from Indiana she was bit by a black spider with a white top. Wasn't a black widow with a red top, and then she went into asthma. Well, they're neurotoxins. These venoms are neurotoxins. As long as your lymph system can adequately clean this out, you're good. So no matter even what snake or whatever, you always want to have the lymphatic formulas around you. And you'll notice plantain is an herb that's extremely good for bites. We get a lot of recluse spider bites in here. Medical doctors get them antibiotics. That doesn't help. They come in here and they lose their tissues. Now you don't have to go through all that. Your body will clean that out and restore the bite, and you know that's what health is all about. That's why I'm saying that we all got to get together in the health field and actually become the health field and quit treating symptoms and dealing with sicknesses. I often thought I would really love to sue the AMA over using the word health. That is our word, not their word, and they have nothing to do about health. You know, we are totally involved in health of the human body. You know, just the insanity. But that, I don't know if that'd be a spiritual thing, you know, but after a while you kind of get frustrated at the ego here and the sense of I know everything and you know nothing type of thinking. And it hasn't served man well to have that, you know. So, honey, just keep going with your health and you'll be fine. I appreciate your comments, sweetheart. You're a lovely, lovely, lovely soul. The thoughts on the appendix. Lymphatics, you know, that's a big lymph area there, considered a big lymph node. And you notice when the lymph nodes back up, and if they stay backed up too much, you start to lose them. I see some cases where their lymph nodes have actually deteriorated in their bodies. And so, you know, you just go back for health and you clean that lymph system out because you will lose the appendix, the tonsils, the adenoids, all same kind of tissues there. And this is all the lymph tissue. It's unfortunate the AMA has lost the understanding, or never had it maybe, of the lymph system and the role of the lymph nodes and why there's bacteria in the lymph nodes and the important role of bacterium. So real important to look at that. I'm also trying to think of all these questions that came to me so I can answer them maybe in a more rhythmatic way there. But great foods to prevent cancer. You know, Chris is not here right now, but if I can get you this chart, I want to show you this. I don't know, I'm not looking at where I can see myself here, but I want to show you this chart. I don't know if this is coming into you at all. I hope it is. If not, I'll try to show this at another time. Maybe I need to be back or forward. I have not a clue. This chart is from the American Cancer Society in 1986. And it shows all fruits and vegetables. Now, what happened to you, American Cancer Society? Now you can have rattlesnake, ostrich, kangaroo, buffalo. They don't care. It's like, what? No link to cancer in the diet, right? I mean, I can't say that man can handle that stupidity much longer. But your fruit and veggies, guys, fruits and veggies. And the fruits, to me, are the king for Homo sapiens. We are the most primate-looking of all the vertebrates, and to me, we're more refined still. So that even puts us more in the frugivorish category than even primates, which are frugivores. We can't call them omnivores. There's some monkeys that eat omnivores. Looks a little unnatural, don't it? Especially that chimpanzee group that broke away from that experimental station. These guys are violent. wouldn't want to be around those guys. Pretty strong here. Someone asked me an important question about masturbation here. Now, a lot of people, of course, use that method of feeling good, you know, and so nothing wrong about it. The thing is that sometimes we have a lot of testosterone building up in the males, and sometimes they have to, you know, the same with the females too. I'm going to say that when you start developing your sense of the now and you start working from up here, you know, a lot of people play with the chakras and the kundalini, and they're raising the energy from the lower chakra in the groin area and build it up through here and working up here. Actually, just start from up here. Quit wasting time. Start from up here. Be from up here. Work from as opposed to, and you'll it's just a shift in consciousness, but you'll save a lot of years. And be in that now and work from you as the observer, as the sinner. When you do that, it will change the energy frequencies. And then if you want to have celibacy, you can do it a lot easier, and it's a ride. I spent several years being celibate, in other words, not engaging in any type of release or sexual activity, be it masturbation or having enjoyment with another person. It just doesn't matter. You know, the primates are pretty active that way. I think, what, 30 times a day or something. But to me, those things doesn't matter. But the more spiritual and the more awakened you are, the less active you are down there, to be honest with you. And so it just goes with the territory. The bonding with another individual is a much higher level, and it's just more etheric, and the joy and ecstasy of another individual coming together, and then you're able to maintain your individuality. So use the images you're using and change them, you know. But, okay. Now, someone asked me about migraines. I was definitely raised with migraines. I had an Amish elder come to me many years ago, had migraines for 45 years straight. And he'd been to all the migraine and headache clinics around the world. He had done over 100 chelation therapies, spent tons of money. And I had it out of him in less than 2 months. So the biggest thing with migraines, get the sinuses cleaned out, get the thyroid perked up, clean the GI tract. These are the 3 most predominant places for migraines. And really get the bowels cleaned up, the GI tract cleaned up, and get your body back into a state of health. That always corrects everything, and including and especially migraines. Very important to get that out, because no one likes a migraine. Those things are gnarly. I had a medical doctor tell my parents when I was a kid that my eye muscles weren't developed yet, so I needed to read an hour every day. Try reading when you have a migraine. I mean, the most stupidest things is out there now. Like I said, we'll try to shoot a video here this morning on muscle testing. It's just using physics to see how you interact with the energy of things. I'd like to hear your opinion. Let's see. Water ionizers. I'm glad you asked this question, because you're going to find me a little simple here, guys. I've been through a lot of years of different things, from ozone machines to frequency machines to the Rife machine to the foot baths to, I mean, untold things through the years. You would have an overproduction of bicarbonate, which is insanity. I've never seen that, to be honest with you, in terms of that sort of thing. I mean, it could be untold reasons, but I very rarely see that. I don't believe in messing with water, ionizing anything. Let it do it in the body as it's going. In reality, I get my water. This is a glass. This is water, Aquapana from Italy. It's in a glass bottle. I order it in here. Its pH isn't what I'd like it to be. Hard to get good water from the mountains that's been untouched. I've been by the Avion in France, beautiful place up in the Alps. I don't like the plastic. If Avion used glass, I'd be sucking down that water, because I think their pH is closer to 8 or in the 7s. But you drink when you're thirsty. You get your water from fruits and vegetables. You let nature energize it, so it's a better way. But I would not drink high pH water. I think cesium has got, a pH of 8, 8.5. I wouldn't get too much higher than cesium. That's probably one of the most alkaline metals on the planet. The Hopis had it. The Hunzes had a lot of cesium in the soil, so it was claimed this is why those tribes didn't have any cancer, was the high amount of alkalinity in their foods. Maybe, but I wouldn't get much higher than that. I think that if you get too much higher than 8 or so, you're going to really start affecting blood pH to the alkalosis side, and that wouldn't be good either. So there's a balance to everything. I guess that's my point. And I just don't believe in spending a lot of money for these ionizers, and you're seeing a lot of people having problems with these high pH waters. So I'm just not into that myself personally. I was talking about, let's see, coconut oil, using coconut oil for a liver flush. Well, I can't see why that wouldn't work. That concentrated oils like that spasm the liver. That's why FDA considers oils probably one of the more toxic parts of plants. That's why in this country essential oils are kind of taboo about ingesting orally. And I understand that. I remember when Gerson Clinic was hot on 100,000 units of A and beta carotene, and the FDA thought that was a little toxic, and they quit doing it. And I find that true. I mean, we got trapped in this supplements, and we need to pound the body with isolates and to make it do what? I mean, the problem is simple. Acids build up in the tissues and break down cells. It takes a while because for a while it's always on the outside of cells causing inflammation. But when cells can no longer eliminate their internal waste, intracellular waste, then you have intracellular acidosis. Of course you're going to start damaging the DNA and the mitochondria and the chromosomes and blah, 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 blah. I mean, yes, yes, yes. And it's keeping that simple, though, will really help you, and you won't get trapped into that. So with the liver, using oils, I wouldn't overdo the liver gallbladder flushes. I would work on making my liver and gallbladder healthy. You will clean the stones out of the liver and gallbladder on a raw food diet and using some herbs, but if you've never done a liver gallbladder flush, everybody's got to experience it once or twice. But I don't know, any concentrated oil will spasm the gallbladder and liver and that make it expel its stones. So, I can't see why it would hurt you. Never done it. Always use the olive oil, but can't imagine. Someone has got fish is great to eat. Well, if you enjoy it, eat it. A friend of mine, we were raw foodists when we first started, before we moved more toward the fruitarian thinking. And I remember sitting on the pier out here, and he caught a fish and broke it open and started eating it right there. He said, well, if I'm going to eat everything raw, I'm going to eat my meat raw too. And that's how I see that. If you're going to eat dead animals, eat it raw, because then you're going to get some health benefit from it. Better take some parasitic herbs just in case. But you could do that, But I'm not opposed to some fish. Again, if you're going to eat meat, have it with a salad maybe once or twice a week. I wouldn't overdo it. If you're detoxifying, leave it off to the side for a while and get into the fruit levels and the berry and melon levels with maybe a few vegetables if you want. But that's detoxification. If you're just living life, well, whatever you want. I like a piece of chocolate once in a while. I think it'd be nuts not to. I always did like that Willy Wonka story. Let's see. The focus and contrast and limits of awareness. I love this guy. This guy's got an emblem of a tiger or a lion. I can't read the name here so much, but yeah, you're really cool, man. I mean, you're mixing the intellectual in with the simplistic, so I like that, and I appreciate your comments on my spiritual videos on that. Yeah, interesting. The contrast and using creation. We'll talk more of those things in the spiritual video about the difference between creation and your contrast, or the finite as opposed to the infinite, or the states of consciousness as opposed to consciousness. You know, you as opposed to what you create. You know, that's the interesting thing about soul is soul, and we touched about that in our first spiritual video, is that you as soul experiences by becoming that which you want to experience. That's the ultimate experience, is becoming that which you want to experience. But by becoming that which you want to experience, you lose who you are if you're not careful. The ultimate would be to enjoy the experience and not become the experience, but enjoy the experience. So, you know, it takes a little time to develop the ability not to keep losing yourself in your experiences or in your desires or in your creation, so to speak. So I really appreciate your comments, bro. Pretty good, like that. Yeah, that comment on the MRI equipment. Interesting. Interesting, for sure. Someone asked me about her grandmother who had radiation therapy to remove a breast and stuff. You know, what amazes me, I just can't figure this out, where this consciousness comes from these oncologists and these surgeons who think that, okay, once you remove a tumor or you remove the breast, why, knowing that radiation and chemo causes cancer, would you give that to a person? I think you should go to jail for that. How long? It depends. If you kill them, well, maybe you should spend a little longer there and contemplate your navel about why you don't kill people. You know, this is just getting away with murder, as far as I'm concerned. I have no doubt that 90% of this, she ended up dying from bone cancer and stuff. It is well known that radiation burns the bones. Chemo tears down bones. I've seen plenty of people get bone cancer after chemotherapy. These are facts. And you know what? I think we need to turn the tables on these guys. You know, they've come off their big narcissistic egos that they can give you battery acid. Remember, in nursing we call it chemo a Drano. Why do we do that? And if you've ever had IV therapy, you'll know why they tell you don't spill chemo on the skin. That's the first thing you're taught. When you're administering chemo vascularly, you don't spill it on the skin. Why? Why do you wear gloves? You know, come on. Come on, guys. We don't have to hurt people in this illusionary facade of treating some mysterious disease no one understands. Maybe the only one that doesn't understand what they're doing is the medical community. That makes me want to puke. So sorry you lost your grandmother, although remember she's just a soul traveling around to her next experience. But the suffering and the crap that this poor lady went through because someone thought she should have some radiation therapy. This person needs to be paid for that. Of course, karma. Guys, I'm going to tell you, karma, and this goes for and it goes for me too. That's why I try to give love and help because, man, you know, whoever did that's got karma to pay, whether they realize it or not. They might think they did it for the good of the whole, but they're smoking something in the back room. Although I find, well, I won't go there. But that's a sad thing. But we see this constantly. If you want to know where I get some of my warped mentality, is you have to sit behind this desk of mine for 40 years and have all you lovely souls that have been butchered come in here and tell me your stories, and you're hanging on to life, mothers with kids hanging on to life because they decided to use chemo or radiation when they didn't even have to. I would just love medical doctors to have this crammed down some of their throats. You know, that sometimes gets me off of balance. Hello again. This is a continuation of our question and answers. The camera took a little bit of a squat there in my raving, probably on purpose. When I read about these people that have had chemo and radiation, it does unbalance me a little bit. Again, difficult to be totally in the now and detached when you see the suffering for no reason, actually. Just a sad sort of thing. So I feel for those that have had the chemos and radiations and died from them and suffered the pain of it all. Just a really sad thing for people that are God people. Such a lack on this planet in that way, so I feel sorry for that. But I could tell you a lot of cases where the radiation and chemo just burnt the cells in the bone so bad that they ended up with bone cancer in several places. And it always makes cancer in other places. It's just after a few years you forget about it, but radiation has a 20-year lifespan that it can cause cancerous tissue in the related areas. I remember I had a lady here, and she had cancer in the eye, believe this or not. And they told her they had this new 3D radiation, just pinpoint that cancer and take care of it. And she was definitely fearful, but they talked her into it. Well, she came to me about a year later full of brain cancer from that. So that was a lie. And so, you know, this is the problem. Any type of damage to cells is not what we're after. You're trying not to kill cells. Whenever you go after one cell in your body, you're going after all of them. Your immune system is designed to terminate these cells. Your lymph system is designed to take these cells to the lymph nodes. This is why you find cancerous cells in lymph nodes. Not part of the lymph node cancer if you had a lymph node cancer, but part of the cells, or the termination of the cell on site. That's what your lymph system is designed to do. That's its job. And so people find these medical doctors find these lymph nodes, and they want to cut them out. Someone mentioned they had a lymph node taken out under their chin here, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit, and wondered why that was why he had a lot of problems of anxiety and things like this. And I thought, yeah, Asian. He had one lymph node removed under the jaw on the left side, and then had a lifetime of fatigue and weakness and mood swings and anxiety and depression, etc., etc. Well, let me reverse that. Let me say that the tumor was the cause of that problem, and that problem is the adrenal glands. That's your autonomic nervous system. So that sits on top of the kidneys, of course, which control the drainage of the lymph system. So this was a problem you had from the beginning, and this tumor was actually an effect of that cause. And that cause, as you get older, you never fix the cause of it. That's why I'm very focused on the causative factors of things instead of the side effects of things. You know, this treating of symptoms is ridiculous and causes a lot of problems, when to understand the cause is real simple. Address that cause, you'll not only get rid of the symptom, but you'll never have it again because you corrected the problem, and now your body will maintain its health. And that is really the key that we all have to deal with here. You mentioned some amalgam fillings. I'd have them out, and the use of them. These dentists are still using these amalgam fillings. What do they need? To slap upside the head or something? I mean, come on. We know mercury's a neurotoxin. Look at how we treat mercury spills in hospitals. And I used to play with it in my fingers all the time. We treat it as, we quarantine the area. We red bag, and yet dentists still play with that. I find that very interesting. My dentist uses composites at the very least. This is a good comment about the Jewish rabbi. I love all you guys. Are you kidding? It's all God, guys. Any soul that wakes up to its divinity, I love you. Because, I mean, this is the cool thing. We should seek these people out and learn from their surrender ability, their ability to surrender and to let go, let God, so to speak, step out of the way and become that which is. You know, the loss of the little self to gain the big self. Again, I'm going to try to do this video on muscle testing. You all are curious, and it's a real simple thing, but it's helpful in understanding or working with things like herbs and glandulars, if your body really likes that particular formula or not. Sometimes an herbal formula is good for a while, and then sometimes it's not. We have some, just talked to a lady where she used lymphatic 1 liquid, lymph node 1 liquid, and kidney, and her sinus just broke loose, tore loose, and just started draining. And so I've been trying those too, because you find the right combination. Herbs are so beautiful, and you find the right combination, man, it can kick up, because those of you that are suffering with tumors and cancer and stuff, moving the lymph system by far is the key of your survival. And the kidneys and adrenals are the magic doors that you need to open as well. Let me see here. Someone talked about chocolate candies. Yeah, you must have myself in mind. Of course, all us fungal heads, we do like the chocolates. But, you know, again, a piece of chocolate once in a while never hurt anybody. There's all the natural chocolates out there now. You know, it's funny how man has tried to make everything taste so good, and yet we shy away from fruits and berries. The flavor of good fruits and berries can't be beat. I can't imagine why we go for tasteless things and then we have to put all kinds of spices to make it halfway taste good. That amazes me. This question was relating to sulfur. I'm not against cruciferouses at all, except that they do tend to be a little more sulfured up than others. If you have a lot of sulfur, inorganic sulfur, I'll call it that way, inorganic sulfur or sulfur drugs type sulfur in the body, you could end up with a lot of excessive gas with this and stuff. I don't find anything wrong with them, but this idea of using cruciferouses for cancer is ridiculous because we're still stuck on the sulfur things. It's like MSM and glucosamine. You know, I mean, shame on these makers. I mean, the sulfur compounds are cumulative in the tissues and actually spawn tremendous amount of fungal problems and suppress lymph systems. I remember I have a famous opera singer in London, and she was on glucosamine and chondroitin, of course, and for her knees. And when I got her, I asked her what she was on, and she told me, and I said, well, you've got to come off of those. She said, oh, no, I couldn't come off of them. My knees would really, start bothering me bad. And I said, well, why are you taking them? She said, oh, to regenerate my knees. And I said, sulfur doesn't regenerate nothing. I said, the FDA, I think, made them change this idea of MSM and glucosamine regenerating bone and cartilage, some ridiculous thing like that. And now if you listen to the commercials, it aids more in the symptoms. So I said, no, I said, this is not good to get sulfur compounds building up in the body because then you've got a lot of more problems to deal with. So she came off of them, but I asked her how long she'd been on them. And she said, well, I've been on them 10 years. I said, 10 years. Let me see. You've been on these supplements 10 years. They claim to rebuild bone and cartilage. You think 10 years is long enough for them to achieve that? Well, it made her stop and think a minute. Wait a minute. I've been taking these 10 years. I have no improvement. If I come off of them, my knees feel worse. That means you're suppressing the symptom. When you're taking something and you come off of it and your symptom is worse, that means that suppressed your symptom. And in time, you're going to lose the knees. So she came off of them. We regenerated her knees, and she's one happy singer now. Of course, she's elderly and does some traveling, but this question was about a juicer or blender. I'm a juicer kind of guy in the sense that if your vegetables, get rid of that pulp. When you're taking something and you come off of it and your symptom is worse, that means that suppressed your symptom. And in time, you're going to lose the knees. So she came off of them. We regenerated her knees, and she's one happy singer now. Of course, she's elderly and does some traveling. But this question was about a juicer or blender. I'm a juicer kind of guy in the sense that if your vegetables, get rid of that pulp. If you got no teeth, you can blend it, I guess, but really a juice extractor is much more powerful in dealing with the greens and things where you've got a concentrated, power-packed amount of nutrition without all the bulky fiber that we don't have the stomachs or digestive tracts to deal with, and then eat your fruit. If you want to juice fruit, just okay. There's nothing perfect out there, guys. There's no rules to anything out there. Things that we found through the years and people going on and off of these programs. But ultimately, if you want to detox, really hit the fruit and the berries and the melons. Also, if you want to build up, like we were talking about earlier, power pack on the greens. No big deal. I mean, there was a fight once between, I think it was Victor, Kavinkis or whatever, and of course our friend Mr. Avocado, David Wolf, and some of our other people out there fighting on which diet was best. And it was like, who cares? Sproutitarian, okay. If it makes you feel good, okay. But I'll tell you, in detoxification, you have to get up into a higher level of thinking. You cannot detoxify on vegetable matter. Now, if you want to live on vegetable matter and you want to have a good combination of both, well, who cares? But if you want to detoxify, you're going to find that you're going to dig deep into that body. You've got to step it up. And I've had 40 years of it, and there's no one that can convince me any otherwise, because I've seen what, 150,000, 200,000 people. Dr. Jensen, 300,000 people. So now, we were talking about grains here, and grains versus meats and stuff. What's healthy about a grain? A grain, I look at Harvey Kellogg and Dr. Graham, and it was like, I know you tried to find something healthy for people, but that's assuming that grains were healthy. Why do we give grains to hogs and cattle? That's right, to fatten them up. Because grains are just starch, complex carbohydrates. A carbohydrate isn't bad, that's fruits and vegetables. But complex carbohydrates are starches, too much sugar. And of course, most grains are acidic. So if you see a horse get into a grain bin, they'll founder. In other words, they get so acidic they can't move. They used to put them down for that. We put down a horse for that once, got into the oat bin. Sad. Now they don't. Well, my grandfather actually didn't know anything about detoxification. And I've detoxified horses and cows. I had a medical doctor have me detoxify his llamas. We've done all kinds of stuff. I had a nurse detoxify her hamsters. We had a guy detoxify his snake. And all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah, life's fun, right? So I'm opposed to grains and beans. These are high phytic acid foods. They're dormant foods. They have enzyme inhibitors. And yeah, you can sprout them. Okay. But grains, and beans, dried beans. I mean, high phytic acid inhibits calcium absorption and utilization. Nothing, and they're dead unless you sprout them. So there's nothing healthy about these things. There's a fetish about these things, I think. We're so used to heavy foods. Well, once you become a light eater, so to speak, you can't go back to heavy eating. Some people like that heavy, bloaty feeling, and until you learn the other side, and you go, wow, I feel light and I feel good. I don't even know I have a body. And then you go back to something heavy, and it's like, oh, that hurt. And that's part of the problem. So, you go through enough of that when you get to these higher levels that you understand you don't, what not to do. You like that, so stop talking and stop thinking, and there's nothing you want, go lion, man. That's the way it is, isn't it? The difference between the all and the contrast. Someone asked me about nettle root. I'm a favor of nettle root, great for kidneys and detoxifying the body. So no problems with that. Here's another question. This guy does grapes throughout the day. He's worried about his physical exertion and shaking and things like this. Work yourself toward this fruitarian idea. And you don't have to be a fruitarian, but work yourself up and experience weeks where you're detoxifying that way. Even if you live more balanced with the vegetables, it's okay. But have where you go a week or two. I mean, we have a lot of our clients go 40 days on grapes, big time. And some go 20, 30 days on lemons. I've got a client right now, I think she passed 43, 44 days on lemon juice. She beat me by far. I've only done 29. Mutt, he did 27. Didn't beat me, Mutt. But still, these are long times on lemons. They're really strong. I can't believe she's past 40 some days. But sometimes when you're dealing in stagnant tumors up in this area, it takes that kind of tenacity and strength and focus to break open that solidified anionic medium of lymph. So sometimes you have to go there. But you want to do this with joy and fun. So if you're getting too shaky there, come down and balance out a little bit. Could be you're dealing with real weak adrenal glands and you're dealing with low blood sugar anyway. When you're eating fruit, eat all the time. Eat off and on throughout the day. Don't have your morning, noon, and night. Especially with weak adrenals, you're going to always low blood pressure, low blood sugar. Remember that. That's the adrenals. And you could be running into a little both of these things depending on how old you are there, man. So balance out if you have to. Don't run yourself too ragged. This is a game of fun. Chronic bad breath. This is your GI tract. Your tongue and your mouth is an extension of your gut. And so this is definitely your gut tissue. Stomach and bowels, it's coming up this way, guy. So you really want to detoxify your GI tract. You can't detoxify just one thing. That's how cool this is. Your body detoxifies head to toe. So really need to get into those bowels. Get our stomach and bowel, whatever you need there. If we got a GI broom that'll pull that stuff real clean too. But start moving your lymph system here. You got some decay in the bowels, of course. You want to clean your bowel walls off and really get that done before you have some bit of trouble in those areas. This can lead to some serious bowel problems. So you want to clean all of that off, and just clean that out. And then your odor, believe this is going to be a good one. Your fluids basically taste like the food you're eating. You'll see what I mean. But definitely you want to smell as sweet as the food you're eating. Okay? You're talking about psychosis and all this stuff here, this other question here. You've got to try to separate yourself from your mind and your emotions while you're on this journey. That's why I highly recommend working with some of these people like J. Krishnamurti or what we're talking about and being here now. Find yourself a place that you love, whether it's the mountains or the ocean or wherever it is, and just walk around being here now. Learn to stop thinking. Learn to pull away from the aberration of the mind and emotions. At the same time, remember the endocrine glands are your connection to your etheric bodies. So make your endocrine glands healthy. Get into the thyroid and parathyroid. Start utilizing calcium. Very important here. And the adrenals. Bring up that autonomic nervous system, the astral, the emotions. And strengthen the physical body. At the same time, you're learning to separate yourself from thoughts and emotions, because they're just the things your body's doing. It isn't you. And start developing your spirituality. And then the karma of whatever you have is going to work itself off. Just be strong and live through that. And always seek the balance of now, of you, not letting anything you're working through affect you. And always seek the balance of now, of you, not letting anything you're working through affect you. Like the girl said, she sat down and she started crying. And I appreciated that response there. And that's how it is, guys. You're going to start stripping away this karma. And it's like, then it really gets good. Because all these ball and chains that are holding you to these desires and these old haunts and these old experiences that you're carrying around with you, you let them go. Doesn't matter. Past is the past. It's dead. It's gone. Don't bring it to the future. Live here now. Live in the moment. As Jesus said, become like little children. It doesn't matter, how you perceive that or what religious thought. The rabbi, he's going to tell you to be in the eternal now. Those that know God know where to find God, and it isn't in time. It isn't in contrast. You might see the aspects of it, but you're going to see both aspects of it. Ask me about cellulite. Yeah, honey, you really need to get those kidneys and those lymph systems moving. because this is where you're dealing with. This is interstitially. And the thing is, lipids are antacids. And not only can you have lumps of lymph, you can have lumps of lipids. And I have a lot of people with lipid lumps all over their body because they're just so acidic. And it's easy to dissolve these. I'll say easier than it is calcifications, but you want to get that lymph moving. It's just showing you you're not filtering through your kidneys here. It's in your legs here. You're not filtering through your kidneys properly. Get your adrenals and your kidneys up, and that'll dissolve away in time. So always know that detoxification is going to correct any type of imbalance or where you see the body in its fight and struggle against acids, because basically it's a war between two sides of chemistry. And remember, we talked about how calcium, cholesterol and calcium, but how cholesterol or even most lipids are antacids. And but you'll see the accumulation of these for sure. And then you always fix the liver, gallbladder. You always clean those out so you can break down your lipids properly. So you're always working and cleaning on these organs and stuff to make yourself healthy. This is an interesting one, and this is from Karine, Miss White Lotus. Ooh, I love that name. That's nice. Beautiful. Secondary lymphoma. I hope you're talking about lymphedema. You know, I was reading through this, and it didn't sound like you were referring to lymphoma, the cancer. You were referring to a lymphedema, which actually leads to a lymphoma, which is a damaged cell, all acidosis, all not moving your lymph, sweetheart. This is the big problem here. She'd had an accident, and again, your lymph system is like the street cleansers or the sanitation department. They're cleaning up the garbage from destruction, or you know, you have a hurricane or a tornado. Somebody's got to clean up the mess. Well, in damage or trauma, you have the same thing going on. Blood does play a role, but the lymph system is ultimately the key to that. I remember I fell off a telephone pole years ago. I used to work for the phone company years ago, and I fell real high off a pole, and I did what they tell you not to do, is grab the pole, you know. And so I had surgery here, and I had these little creosote spinners. They came out my fingernails for years. But it was interesting to see that, you know. My lymph was, get out of here. You're not wanted here. And so if you got lymphedema anywhere, secondary, I don't care what you call it, you got kidney failure. And you're, in the sense that you're not filtering your lymph through your kidneys, your adrenals are going to control that. So definitely need to get your kidneys filtering this, honey, and get your adrenal glands up there and get that taken care of, and you'll all that'll come out of there. And you want to dig into this until it does. Bottom line, because some of the legs we see in here are not too good, really big and nasty and gnarly. Acids take no mercy, take no prisoners, you know. Is milk kefir healthy and to consume? No. I tell you what, get away from the milk thinking. Even the nut milks, almond milk, of course, soy is the worst thing. My grandfather was a farmer guy, and I never knew, all my family were farmers, and I just never knew anybody that had anything healthy to say about soy. I think that's why Monsanto picked on that crap bean, and then suddenly it is a wonder food. I think man is so gullible, it's not even funny. There's no wonder food about soy. Sorry, even though the Chinese might think that, and forgive me not to insult you, but there's nothing wonderful about soy. Fruits and veggies, maybe. So definitely not into to the nut milks. Real concentrated. And what do you use them for? You know, cereals? Well, that's grains. That's not good. They're all acidic. And then you had to eat them raw or sprout them. And you see, you got that whole thing going on there. Now, if you're asking me about infants, and you can't breastfeed, then you could mix. You definitely want to use the coconut milks for the fatty acids, but then you definitely could mix it with a little almond milk, a little chia seed. Like I said, I have an infant formula coming out. It should be, I wanted to call it gorilla milk, but it's mother's milk by nature. And I'm still working on it. I want to have these babies healthy and regenerating their genetics while they're eating. Don't you? Isn't that cool? So that's where we have to be. This is a good one too, and I appreciate this one. I have a friend in New York City who has developed lymphoma and has lost several friends in the city to lymphoma since 9/11. Again, it is key that all you great souls that worked in all these areas detoxify your body. That's the whole key to every single thing and every symptom of toxicity, whether it's neurotoxic, excitotoxins. Yes, you were subjected to a tremendous amount of toxins. This superclogged the lymph system even more, and that's your main immune system. So detoxify, detoxify, detoxify. I don't care what. And you'll pull yourself out of this. Don't succumb to these things. I remember a fireman, 3 firemen got into a chemical fire locally, and I knew them because I worked in the emergency room for a lot of years, and they would come in, you know. So they all got leukemia from this. Well, one died, and the other one, that I knew the most, I read about him. I called him up, and he wasn't doing good in a wheelchair. And so I brought him in. I explained the raw. I put him on raw. Sure enough, he started getting up out of the chair. He started walking with a cane, now without a cane. This guy was coming out. He was doing good. His numbers were doing good. And his medical doctor said to him, well, what's this guy doing to you? He's building your immune system. You can't do that. This medical doctor scared his wife so much that his wife forced him to go back to the medical doctor. He's dead. Took him 1 month to die. Thank you, Mr. Medical Doctor. You know, this is ignorance. And now she has to live with that. And we almost had him that close. Amazing he would have survived. The other guy I heard died too. This is the problem. This arrogant, narcissistic thinking of the medical community. Don't get me going. This is going to turn on them. I've got a good legal team, and I'm telling you, we're right. We're hot. We are not going to take it anymore. And we're not going to take this crap anymore by these states who decided they were going to conspire with the medical profession to create a monopoly so you guys couldn't have access to this knowledge that doesn't hurt anybody, that cures everybody, and they do nothing but hurt and kill people. I'm sorry, not to be offensive to the medical community, but it is a proven fact that if you stop practicing right now, we would save hundreds of thousands of lives. That's a fact. And especially with us coming down, they probably wouldn't lose too many. So no offense, but we have to change the way we think. We can't just keep going on and perpetrating the big lie and losing our economy. I mean, the prices of these, the medical world is bankrupting people. And they're not getting cured at all. Matter of fact, they're getting killed, a lot of them. So if you guys want to dance around the pole, my legal team is putting up a lot of information against you guys for what you're doing. So, you know, wake up and do like a lot. I have a lot of friends that are medical doctors. You guys are great. This is worked in corporate environment with armpit wet. You know, this is where the lymph nodes are, and if your kidneys aren't filtering, your armpits will. And of course, depending what you're eating is what you're smelling. A lot of people have a lot of decayed protein in their bodies, and they're going to stink until they can get their lymph system clean, and then you're going to smell like the food you're eating. And so once you get your kidneys filtering, you won't sweat under the arm so much. You will stop over sweating if you oversweat. If you undersweat, that's the thyroid gland, and it shows that the thyroid is not getting you enough body temperature to sweat, and that would be important for you there. If I'm going fast, forgive me, but I've got so many of these to get through, and I don't want to make these too long for you because probably boring you by now. This gentleman, and I like this guy. He's sending me a lot of things. The water full of love. Listen, you're a good guy here, man. Yeah, body temperature 96 to 97, too low. Thyroid, you need to be 97 to 98. So actually, give me a 97.5 in today's world. Anything below 97.5 is a little hypothyroidism. And when you get down to 96s, you're getting more chronic. In the low 96s, upper 95s, you're going to get scoliosis in time because the parathyroids are involved in that level of suppression there. And this is another thing with you. You bruise easy, and here's the and you got the hemorrhoids. You're exactly right. You've got low thyroid and parathyroid, so you're not utilizing your calcium. And when you lose calcium to acids, you need to put it back at least. And if you don't, this is what you see. The bruising easy and the hemorrhoids and the loss of connective tissue in your body. And connective tissue holds everything together. So you get hernias or aneurysms or prolapses and bulging. And women, your bladder and your uterus starts sagging down. So work on that parathyroid. I don't know what herbs are good for the parathyroid outside of the berries. Berries are good for all the endocrine glands, but that's just where a glandular of a parathyroid tissue probably would do you good here with this problem. Now, again, you might consider the pituitary there if you have any stunted growth or you have any pigmentation changes in the skin, a few things like that you might consider pituitary, but I think if you go on a thyroid and a parathyroid glandular, I think this is going to be excellent to help you bring this up because you want to stop that bruising easy. That's real important. I've seen a lot of aneurysms in my life, and you just want to strengthen up all this, my friend. Frequent urination, muscle joint pains. Yeah, I mean, depression is your parathyroid. Your joint pain, of course, that's your lymph system. Your adrenals are down. So you have several endocrine gland problems here, which are common. Don't get upset. Very common. You want to, and you're playing a lot of sports. I'd probably cool that down a little bit until I got my kidneys filtering the lymph, or you're going to feel more joint pain, and then start to lose your joints. Your synovial fluids will dry up in your knees because you're creating acids you can't get rid of. So definitely, my friend, take care of yourself in that way. Get your kidneys filtering, get the adrenals up to get that to happen at the same time. So you got several endocrine glands here that could be problematic. So you might think about hitting the pituitary a little bit along with this. Sounds like you got a little prostatitis going on here too, but that's just a reflection of the kidney weakness there. I forget what surgery you're going to go through, but surgery doesn't fix nothing. I mean, it does remove some essential destroyed tissue sometimes, which I'm not opposed to that for mastectomies or lumpectomies. There's always room for great surgeons. I love great surgeons. They've done wonders, so I applaud you guys with that. But I'm talking about the people that are using drugs to hurt people. Still, if you can avoid surgery, you can repair and regenerate tissue. Now, sometimes if your gallbladder is literally soup or your appendix is soup, you're going to have it removed. That's all you can do. Sometimes the uterus has fibroids so big that the amount of work to take to get that out of there, sometimes it's better to have a hysterectomy. It will relieve some energy and then let you go on. And I think that you have to get with that sort of thing. The same thing with breasts. If we have tumors way too big, we pull some with black salve and had tumors come out this big. But we don't do that anymore. It is better to have a mastectomy and then fix the cause problem to that. Because I've had people that, no, we're not going to do a mastectomy, we're not going to do it, not going to do it, not going to do it, and then they died because they didn't listen. And we kept telling them, when you have tumors too big, don't be stupid. You just waited too long, you didn't have access to that, and said, okay, it's just a body part, it isn't you anyway. So, I hope I come across somewhat balanced to you, because there are times when we need the medical community. There are times, and if we all hold hands, we quit hurting people with pharmaceuticals, and we start holding these pharmaceutical companies responsible for putting out deadly toxic supplements or pharmaceuticals, drugs, but no one's holding them responsible. These aren't wonder drugs. The wonder is already here. The wonder isn't in the future. The wonder's already here. The botanicals have been here for thousands and thousands of years. So the wonder's already here. It now is a slaughter machine or something. I see some of these drugs, and I can't believe the FDA is really seriously letting these drugs on the market. There is no percentage amount of deaths that are acceptable. Let me ask the FDA, if my herbal formula has killed one person, is that okay? How about if my herbal formula is out of 100, 10%, 10 people? Is that acceptable? what would be acceptable in my herbal formulas of how many people would die from using them? What acceptance level would that be? Or they develop lymphomas, or they develop some serious problems. What level of that is acceptable? None. None of that is acceptable. So, you know, this is the problem. We haven't held these people accountable. And the rich protect the rich. So we got to smarten ourselves up, guys. This lady, gentleman, Cindy, hi honey, you're on week 7 and 8 of the detox kit. Thank you for trying those on. I really applaud you. You've got some good things you're saying about here. This is the good one about breaking down and releasing the emotions, and you haven't been doing this for years, and you came out of this, and thank you, Cindy. You guys are good. Now you've awakened your spirituality. Isn't this cool? I mean, I was just talking to a lady. She couldn't believe the herbs were awakening her spirituality. That is cool. That is cool stuff. So we're all a part of that big focus of God to awaken itself in this level. Let's keep going. That sounds good. And I think that's about it. This person has some restless leg syndrome at night when they do fruit and things. Interesting. Then don't eat just fruit then. Cut down on that. Probably real strong on the kidneys, and the kidneys control the lower back. Kidneys are L4, L5 are the vertebrae that controls the kidneys, so to speak. That's that channel of nerve ganglions and things, so, and blood and lymph. So that L4, L5, you're always going to see L4 and L5 break down on you when you have kidney weakness, and you could be seeing some of that because fruits are very aggressive on the lymphatic system. Outside of that, I couldn't tell you. You could use some castor oil on the lower back. You could use an antispasmodic. But if you need to cut back and do some vegetables for a while, you'll fix this and then move on. I'd take a kidney formula, a lymphatic formula, those two. You can use the antispasmodic if you're having too much of a restless leg. But again, all that inflammation or acidosis is backing up from the kidneys to the L4, L5, the lower back, and then it spreads and, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Swells the spine, compresses or herniates the discs, and it goes on like that. You might have a chiropractor look at you there in the lower back and see what he finds for you. Well, I think I'm caught up. So I really thank you again so much. I rant and rave sometimes, so forgive me. I appreciate it if you bear me out. Again, if you sit behind this desk for all these years, you start to pull your hair out at the insanity of what's out there in both the natural health field actually and in the medical community. And I think it's time that all of us practitioners and all you guys learn to be practitioners. We start holding hands and changing the way the world sees health. And I tell you, we'll make a strong planet and the consciousness will be elevated. Now, I don't know if that's meant to be, but if it is, it shall happen. So thank you, dear ones. Have a great night, and I appreciate you watching the videos again. Thank you from the staff and me. Bye-bye.